Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to join your group today. My name is Dr. Laura Konopacki. I'm a chiropractor. I have a practice out in Fitchburg, and it is my pleasure to be joining you virtually here for your meeting. Today, I would love to share with you some information about the way that I practice chiropractic. It's quite different. I know Kathy has a relative who experiences this type of chiropractic. I think a few other of you are also aware of it at least. And it is quite different. I'm excited to share some information about it. So today I'd love to touch on, first of all, what is this technique I practice? It's called network spinal. And second, how could we tell? How could we make a very good educated guess that this would be able to help you? Okay, so we're going to get into both of those points. Talking with Kathy, she really helped me understand what daily life is like for you guys and the challenges that come with your conditions, your tremors, and the other diagnoses that you may have. Simple things, whether it's planning a meal, thinking about how you're going to hold the knife and the cutting board at the same time, safely, handwriting, writing out a check, all these things that are just part of normal life. You guys have to think about them so much more. You have to put so much more effort into them. In addition to that, things like going out in public, the anxiety that comes with maybe having your condition misunderstood or misread, misinterpreted. And so I really understand, I get that you're looking for ways to live better with these conditions, ways to manage symptoms, and ideally control and relieve some of the stress-based conditions that come along with what you're dealing with. So we're going to get into that. And before I do dive into the details, I'll share a little bit about myself. I am originally from the area. I grew up on a farm out in Brooklyn, a dairy farm right on the Sugar River. Wonderful way to grow up. And I've been in practice for just about 20 years. I've been studying and receiving this version of chiropractic care myself for about 25 years now. And in those 20 years of practice, I've had the incredible experience of being able to practice all around the world. So I worked in China, Peru. I did some volunteer work in India and Brazil, and spent the majority of my overseas time in Spain. I was there for about 7 years. I also was a part of a group of colleagues who opened up a chiropractic university in Barcelona. So it was the first bilingual chiropractic university in the entire world that we started, I guess, coming up on about 10 years ago now or so. That was an incredible professional experience over there. So I've been back in the area for about 8 years now and really just getting settled and quite happy not to be traveling anymore, actually. Got that out of my system, I guess. And really, what I think is neat about that whole chapter is that I bring to this discussion my experience all around the world, really stepping outside of my personal and professional paradigm or box. It's allowed me to open up to a very unique and new way of doing things. This is a new version of chiropractic. I like to think it's an upgraded version. We'll see if you guys agree with me. And so what I'm sharing today is based on my experience over the past 20 years as a chiropractor, 25 years studying and receiving this work, the hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people that I've worked with in many different countries and cultures, and again, bringing this unique perspective to something, that's I think has more of a mainstream or traditional general understanding, which is chiropractic. So I'm excited to share more. Let's dive in. So before I get into the details of what network chiropractic is, let's start with what we all have in common. So Chiropractic 101, simplified version. A chiropractor believes that the body has an inherent intelligence that is designed to keep us well. Okay, so that intelligence is really housed or centered and controlled in the brain, body's computer, and that information or those instructions reach the rest of the body via the nerve system, right? So spinal cord, spinal nerves, going out to every cell, every organ, tissue in the body, right? Protecting the spine, we have vertebra. Oh, that one's not working so well. So these are like interlocking puzzle pieces, right? The spine, the vertebra, there should still be movement between the bones, but really it's a bony encasement of the nervous system to protect this most very important part of our body. So again, chiropractors talk about the intelligence up here that, if allowed to reach the body unobstructed in an unobstructed fashion and return clearly, well, that person is going to have the best possible chance to be healthy and to express health. So what we do as chiropractors is try to identify any interference to that normal flow of information from the brain out to the body and back, right? One of the ways that could occur is when these bones get stuck or misaligned or tight, right? And that lack of motion between spinal joints can then pull or pinch the nerves, sending more of a stress response out to the body. Okay, so that's one way that can happen. It can also be triggered directly in the brain through either a chemical or an emotional or mental stressor, which then actually starts to send that stress circuitry or message right down from the brain out to the body, right? Not even involving the spinal bones. So in our own way, chiropractors look for that interference and try to remove it so that we can restore your body's ability to work at its highest level. Now let's get a little bit into the differences with this version of chiropractic, which I think are very, very exciting. So now the fun part. What is network spinal chiropractic? It's something that I've been obsessed with for 25 years. It's so fascinating to me, and it never gets old what I see change for people and happen in people's bodies. So network was developed in 1983 by a man called Donnie Epstein. Donnie was kind of a master of chiropractic. So in chiropractic, there's all these different techniques, and he learned so many of them, and he learned from a lot of the masters of these old techniques, people who really were renowned in our profession for great outcomes for people. So he had studied all these different versions of chiropractic, and he started to see patterns in the analysis of how somebody's body or spine was holding tension, and then also how to help that tension unlock in a very unique way. So as he was kind of pulling this all together, he thought of it like chiropractic's greatest hits, because he was pulling the best pieces from all these different perspectives and paradigms and networking them together. That's where the name network originally came from, kind of pulling in the best of all these different chiropractic techniques. And then one other thing that was extremely unique for this particular approach is how not only the analysis, but then how he discovered with very, very light touch, he could create new abilities in the body where the person's body started to release tension on its own. Completely unheard of, right? Because normally, if there's a tight spot in the back, We think of chiropractors going to that spot and putting in a force from the outside to try to take that high tension down to low. Instead, with this version of chiropractic, we are getting your body to learn how to go from high tension down to low. So we don't put the force in from the outside. We're not crunching or cracking or twisting the spine or the neck. Rather, we are bringing your front brain back in connection to what's happening in your spine. So the very, very light touch that I use with Network is extremely precise and specific, but it's designed, again, not to force a release of tension, rather to cue the front brain to recognize that the body's been holding and storing this tension. That switches the control from the hindbrain, the stress part of the brain, which holds us tight. If we can switch that up to the front brain, there's new abilities that become available. As soon as we can get the front brain connected back to the spine, that signaling can change and unlock everything below it. So the coolest part, I think, is that we teach your brain how to recognize these areas of stored tension, and then also how to release on your own. So it becomes an ability, a new ability and a new strategy that your body didn't have before. It's like upgrading your operating system, right? So we want to be able to get the nervous system to do better, right? And for you guys, wouldn't it be cool if that could translate to living better with the conditions that you've got, right? If your brain and spine aren't locked up in so much stress, what's possible for you? Not only with movement and speech and things like that, but just feeling your life in general start to open back up versus close in on itself. So think about it like this. Your spinal cord, think about it like a wet kitchen towel that's twisted up really, really tight. Now, there'd be a knot right in the middle, a tightest spot. That's where a traditional chiropractor would go, and they'd put a force in there to try to reset things and drop that tension out. However, if the brain doesn't agree that it's time to let go of that defensive pattern, it will just return. And sometimes even in a stronger way, because the brain thinks, well, I've got to try harder. My defense has been interrupted. So instead of going to that tightest spot, what a network chiropractor does is actually go to the ends. And using that very subtle, precise cue, we can get your brain to unravel that kitchen towel so that the tension in the spinal cord can just drop out. And that is reflected then through all the tissues of the body and allows the body to have that better, not only to feel better, but to have that ability to not be as triggered by stress. It's kind of like if we had a car whose idle was set too high, that background stress program is running in the nervous system, and we can reset that so that lower, we can bring the baseline lower to where that background stress isn't so loud, taking just a tiny thing to trigger you into more symptoms. Okay, so we can lower down that stress held in the body. And now finally getting to point number 2, how can we know with a reasonable degree of certainty that this version of chiropractic might be beneficial for somebody walking into the office, regardless of what condition they have or disease or label or symptom? We do a lot of testing here. Okay, when somebody comes in for their first visit, we do an analysis of their nervous system and their spine. So we're looking at, we're actually using computerized nerve scans to listen to how are those signals reaching your body at each spinal level. We can actually see on a graph where those nerves are being pulled or pinched tight, like guitar strings that are tuned too tightly. So we'll do those nerve scans. We also do a postural assessment where we take photographs from the front and from the side of your body to understand in a resting state what your brain reads as normal. That helps me understand what we need to do to unlock that for you and get you back to better function. We'll do range of motion testing, moving the head, neck, and shoulders and the low back, balance and coordination, which helps me understand which pathways in the nervous system are most affected. And then also a spinal palpation, where I feel your bones, your back with my hands, and really discover how your body has uniquely absorbed and held life, right? So I can find which parts of the spine are the tightest. Where is the most potential held, locked, and stored in your body? And it gets really exciting because, to understand, again, what's all of the energy that's locked inside of people's bodies, well, gosh, if we can get that freed up for you, if we can get the brain to find it and then release it, it's like if you had $1 million in the bank, but you didn't have your PIN code to access it. Well, we get that PIN code for you so you can really access the full potential of your body, regardless of what condition you're dealing with. And that really just makes such a wonderful change for people. So the tests that we do on the first visit give me a strong understanding of, number one, what's going on. Number two, is this the right approach for the person? Is it likely that we'd be able to get good results, get the body to learn how to release its own stress, tension, and energy? How long it would take, what the person would have to do on their own to help as well. So that really pulls this together and helps me understand how to apply it to each individual person that I'm working with. If you guys have any questions, of course, I'm going to be hopping on live in a few minutes. I hope you've got some tough questions for me. I love to dive into this with people. And of course, you're also welcome at any point to reach out to our office. You'll probably be talking to Shelly, my office manager, and she can help with any questions that you might have as well, either about things like payment and insurance or scheduling. So I hope this little introduction has been helpful, maybe piqued your curiosity, and I will be coming on live in a few minutes here and looking forward to connecting. Thank you.